I made this dish 4 years ago and I got it wrong. And I apologize, people of Spain. I'm sorry for butchering your national dish. But today I'm gonna try and get redemption. So I've asked my mate Frank Kimura how to make paella at home, as authentically as we can. It's not as hard as you think, but there is a few things to make sure we get right to make it as authentic as we can. Let's get stuck in. First and foremost, the rice. This is bomba rice. It's a short grain rice that absorbs liquid really well. And as Frank mentions,
the rice is really the hero of the dish. What I see a lot of the times in paellas become overcluttered with ingredients.
And that's the reason why people from Valencia get frustrated when we put chorizo in it, because it completely changes the flavor and it becomes about that flavor as opposed to the flavor of the rice and the other ingredients.
The classic paella valenciana, which is the Valencian paella, is a very specific number of ingredients and it relates to where it was.
Then we have saffron. Really expensive ingredient, but it's very important to the flavor profile of the paella. So what is saffron? Well, it's the stigma, or one of the very small pieces of pollen on the inside of a particular flower. It's hand harvested. Each one of these little things is hand plucked out, hence why it's so expensive. This stuff's like more expensive than gold, but you don't need much of it. Next up, sweet paprika. So it's a type of capsicum or a type of chili. It's not spicy though. Some people use smoked paprika. From my research, the sweet paprika is actually more traditional. Olive oil. Frank says to use extra virgin or a good quality olive oil, but that doesn't have a strong flavor profile.
It's about the quantity. Like I almost double to what I normally use in olive oil on the base for sofrito. And yeah, and I use a lot of olive oil. I'll get so.
Fat is flavor, and olive oil is good for you, apparently. Next up, the meat. Now, traditionally, there's 3 types of meat here. We only have 2 of them here today. Rabbit, chicken, and snails. This dish comes from the fields. It's from people that were working in the rice fields, collecting what they had at hand, and then cooking it to share together.
They'd have a fire set, they could put the pan on, they grab the rice, the rabbits, they grab the snails, in it goes, and you're making lunch for your 10 guys that are out there picking rice all day. So
the issue with snails in Australia is finding raw snails is pretty tricky. We can get good quality chicken and we can get rabbits here. Rabbit is a bit trickier to find. If you can't find rabbit, don't stress too much, just leave it out and use more chicken. Vegetables. Tomato, we're gonna grate. You can use canned if you want. If it's not summer where you are, tomato season is ripe right now where I am in Australia. And then beans. Now, traditionally it uses a bean called gazorbo bean. Very hard to find in Australia. You can use a white bean or you can use here, these are called a runner bean, which we'll use, and I'm gonna use some broad beans. Then we have rosemary, also really important. We don't wanna use heaps of it. We're not trying to overpower the dish, but we will use a little bit of it. Water. Traditionally, this dish in Valencia is made with water. A lot of people also make it with stock, and there's different versions of this dish all over Spain that are also made with stock, but we're going as traditional as we can today. So we just have straight up agua. And finally, arguably the most important ingredient, if you could call it that, this, which is actually the paella. This dish here is called a paella pan. It's specifically designed for cooking large amounts of food for a lot of people to share. And as Frank was saying, they can get up to 1 meter wide.
The largest paella we have is about 1 meter.
And you can cook for a lot of people in one go. What happens if you don't have one of these? Well, don't tell the Valencians, but if you just have like a shallow fry pan or something with small sides, you can kind of use that instead of going out and buying one of these. But if you want a little party trick, it's kind of worth investing in one of these. It's great sharing food. In fact, it's the ultimate sharing food.
It's a dish for celebrations, really.
So to break down our meat, we kind of want to keep it on the bone, ideally. So this is why I have a whole bird. You could just get some legs in. This whole bird is going to weigh about 1.1-ish. So it's actually enough to do a paella that size, just from one bird. However, I'm probably going to save the crown for something else. So I'm just going to take the legs off, cut through the skin, pop the joint. Then we're going to cut that in half at the joint. Then we're actually going to cut that again through the bone. Good to go. And then for the drumstick, I'm just going to take that top knuckle off. When you're using a knife to do that, make sure you're using the heel of the knife so you don't destroy it. You also want a nice clean cut so you don't end up with little bone fragments. Okay, so that's probably not 500 grams of chicken. We're looking for 1 kilo of meat in total, but I don't want to break this crown down, so I want to save it for something else, a completely different recipe. So we do have about 1 kilo of rabbit here, so we're going to use this whole thing. Let me show you how to break that down. It's not too dissimilar from a chicken. This is a rabbit. It has like a very interesting anatomy, something between a chicken and a pig, I think. But breaks down similar to a chicken. So we'll start with the shoulders. So they're kind of the easiest part. Is a really clear defined shoulder blade. We're just going to run our knife underneath it, and that's a front leg. Not heaps of meat on here, but like lots of good flavor in the bones. So these hind legs, this is where the biggest muscles are and a lot of meat. Very similar to a chicken. You're just going to find the joint. You'll kind of feel where it is, and then run your blade along that joint and through. There'll be another joint further up, cut through that. Then there's always like a big like feather bone here. I like to take that out. I think it's just tricky to eat. Well, you can't eat the bone. Duh. So this piece I'm just going to cut in half. So if you've got kids or you're worried about serving food on the bone, you can debone all this first. Unless you're serving kids, I suggest you cook it on the bone. It's going to add way more flavor to your stock. I mean, we're adults. We can all kind of eat around a bone, I think. It's been a long time. Oh, there you go. There's a rabbit's tail. Not much meat in that, unlike a cow's tail. So here we have the actual main carcass of the rabbit. There's a good amount of meat here on the back saddle. There's also some fillets inside here. I like to keep those on, but what I'm going to do is we're just going to run down between some vertebrae, so every second one. And then you have like a nice barrel with a big back saddle and the fillet as well. There is these belly bits which can get a little bit scraggly, but I'll just leave them on there, it's fine. Okay, first things first, we need to toast our saffron. As you can see, before toasting it, you're gonna wrap it in some foil so we can get even heat distribution and it keeps it all together. The reason we wanna do it now is because we wanna take our time with this, and once our paella is cooking, we really don't wanna, we wanna focus wholly on the paella. So just toast it lightly. This is a pretty hot heat, so we don't want it too aggressive. And then you might be thinking, Andy, why are you outside now? More on that in a second. It is hot though, it's like summer here. You want to start smelling it. We're not trying to like burn this at all. We just want to open up the oils. Oh, burn me nose. That's literally been like 20 seconds and that is fine. I can smell it. I'm just going to leave that over to the side. So why are we here? Outside. We have a perfectly good cooker inside. A couple of reasons. Firstly, this was always traditionally done over wood, over fruit wood or olive wood. So we have some apple tree wood here that we're using to help flavor it. Do you think you can actually taste the difference in the finished product?
I think you absolutely can.
But more importantly, honestly, is the even heat. So you can see here, I've set up a kettle. I've got an even layer of charcoal and wood.
You need a burner that is similar in size to the paella pan.
Yep.
So you get a consistent heat.
I'm gonna put that on the heat and we need the olive oil. We need lots of it. That's really going to help us develop that sukara at the end. It's also quite important that it's even. I'm going to let that come up to temperature. I'm going to add some salt to the bottom of the pan.
And that olive oil, anything particular we should be looking for? We're looking for a pretty like full-bodied olive oil or something a little bit kind of more mild
Lighter.
and lighter?
Mild, yeah, lighter or fruity.
Okay, time for our meat. You can see how our oils should be reasonably hot. We're going to start building the Maillard reaction. Really important also for the sukara. So you're probably saying, Andy, how do we control temperature when you're cooking over charcoal? Well, a couple of ways. You can, you basically want to get it to like a nice simmering temperature. You also don't want to overcrowd this pan. I actually think I've got a little bit too much meat, so I'm going to stop putting meat in there. Put that piece in there and then we're done. The other way we can control it, because we're going to need to get it really hot at a certain point, is that we can just kind of add some more wood, which will get flame. So get a bit of piece of wood under there, that'll catch a light and have a nice big flame.
It's quite important that the fire almost overlaps the paella, so it sort of floats up, so it gives it that aroma.
All right, we're just gonna spend the next 7 to 8 minutes just getting really good color on all of this meat. So our saffron, we've got a little small mortar and pestle. We're just gonna open this up, don't waste any. I'm gonna grind it. We're just getting ready for when we need this a bit later on. Then we're just gonna add a splash of water. Look at the color. You can see here, this flame licking around the side of the pan, that's what we want. Smoke's rolling into it, flavor. Smoke is an ingredient, whether it's Texas barbecue, a paella in Valencia, you know, satay in Indonesia. Smoke is an ingredient. We get some good color there. We're gonna move our meats to the outside of the pan. So traditionally you would also use artichokes. They're not really in season right now, so we're not gonna use them. In the broad beans go. So temperature control, at this point we're trying to like let the fire mellow out a bit. We don't want that harsh kind of heat underneath it. So that should naturally happen because we haven't stoked it in a while. Once we're pretty much close to the end, we are going to ramp that heat back up, and that's to help build that sukara. That's right at the end. I can feel like sweat dripping down my butt crack. Tomatoes are in. Temperature control. I notice that the middle of my pan's not as hot as the outside, so I'm just realigning some coal. Make sure we got nice heat all the way around, including the center. Time to add our spices, paprika, saffron. and the water, making sure we get all that saffron out of that little dish. Right, we're gonna bring that to a simmer. We're gonna cook it for about 20 minutes. So it looks like there's a lot of water in there right now. It will start reducing down. If you need to bring it up to temperature, what we can do is just add a bit more wood underneath it, get a bit more flame, and that'll help it simmer a lot quicker. This is what we're looking for, nice even heat. You can see it's even because it's bubbling all the way around. And it's time for the most important ingredient, the rice. We're gonna sprinkle it in. We wanna make sure it's really even. We don't wanna mix it too much. We can mix it a little bit at the start, but then once we're kind of cooking, we don't really wanna mix it too much.
My method is making the sofrito a really fast cook when you've got the rice in there, like really hard boil, evaporate it as quickly as possible, and then you start seeing the rice on top. That's when you turn it down and just cook it nice and slowly.
So the rice has been in here for like 30 minutes at this point, almost started, you can't see any more bubbles, right? I've just tasted the rice and it's still got a little bit of bite in it, but that's good, it's what we're after. So at this point, we need to get the heat back up so that we can set the socera.
Then give it the Allchurch, that sort of element of Maillard, so give it a little bit of extra oomph on the fire and then try and get that reaction.
And now we need to really use our senses. We're listening here. We can't see really what's happening, we've got to listen. You're gonna hear it start to crackle and pop. We need to control that without doing this 1,000 times. This is not easy, I'm not gonna lie, but I also haven't done it for 1,000 times, so. Let's see how I do. And I promise you, we won't remake it if I stuff it up. We'll leave it in. You will have hot spots, so just keep it moving in the same spot around in circles. All right, I'm happy with this. The sizzle's starting to come down a bit, and you can see around the edges that it's got a nice golden color, so we're gonna take this off very carefully. Now, super important that we leave this to rest for like 20 minutes at least. You know, let everything just settle down, relax a little bit. Let's run this inside and get ready to eat some rice. So this is the perfect dish for sharing. Like I kind of mentioned it earlier. You put it down in the middle of the table. You know, this will feed 4, 6 people, no problem. Just have a little plate like this on the side. Make sure you got somewhere to put your bones and put your dirty cutlery, and you're all digging.
Yep.
And it's not something you just, you get home from work and you just pop the pan on and make it at home. So yeah, definitely it's a celebratory thing.
But I'm talking fast because I'm genuinely very nervous. I really hope 2 things. A, that I've done the Valencians proud, and B, that I have socera.
But one of the most important things is the socera, which is that beautiful crust that you get on the paella, which is, really that it's a Maillard reaction.
So without further ado, we're gonna poke around a bit and see where we're at. It's definitely there. If anything, it's a little bit too dark. Oh no, it's a bit dark. Let's have a taste. Well, first things first, you can definitely taste the saffron and the paprika slightly as well. You can taste a bit of smokiness, you can taste those beans in there, and the sweetness from the tomato comes through. It's really nuanced in flavor, but it's absolutely delicious and it's full of umami. I think that meatiness, the tomato, the Maillard reaction on the meat, and then that stock coming together over the open fire really does something really special to that rice. Should you make this at home? Absolutely. And you should absolutely try and nail it the first time, but don't be upset if you don't. People like Frank have been making these things for 30 years, their whole life, their whole professional life, and they still don't get it right every single time. You're just gonna get better and better at it as time goes on. And I think that might be one of the reasons why Valencians are so protective over this dish.
I mean, it's generations of, perfecting this dish.
It's about culture, it's about bringing people together, and it's about family. This food is absolutely delicious. And when I represent other people's culture, the last thing I want to do is misinterpret it and represent it in a way that they're not proud of. So I hope I've done you proud, Valencia. It's not perfect, but I gave it a good crack. Thanks for watching, legends. A huge thank you to Frank for jumping on this video and helping me with this journey. And we'll see you next week for another recipe. Peace.